What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update, and someone you haven't seen in a while. It's Simeon back on the show with us on what is Freedom Day today, but it's not so much Freedom Day for us, Sim, is it?
Unfortunately not. We have to isolate for a few more days, so maybe we should be joining those protests. No, I'm joking. But yeah, look, is what it is. It's just how the cards are fallen, but I'm looking forward to when isolation ends. Going to be going out.
100%. Look, I can't wait to get back into that studio and start watching some proper football and getting into stadiums and what have you. But this is a Tottenham update, and let's start off with news from Sky Italia. And they're saying that interest of Tottenham remains alive on Gollini, the goalkeeper, Atalanta's goalkeeper Gollini. And they say first that Spurs should look to sell Joe Hart and then eventually close a deal for Italian goalkeeper. Spurs continue to find the right formula. So what they're saying is that we're looking to bring Gollini in and to replace Joe Hart, apparently, who we're looking to ship off this summer. What do you make out of that story?
I think that maybe it's with a view of looking at Lloris's potential replacement. I think it's a smart move. He's a fairly young keeper. As keepers go, he's 26, so he's not exactly young for a football player, but he's for a goalkeeper. He's still got many, many years left. So I think have him as understudy potentially for a year, and then once Lloris moves on or whatever, or retires, then maybe we have him with the view to stepping up and being our number one. I think that makes more sense. I don't think we're going to be able to sell Joe Hart for any sort of money. If we want to get rid of Joe Hart, we have to give him away, unfortunately, or maybe even pay someone to have him. I think that's probably the most likely option. I'm not even joking. I think we probably have to pay someone like his wages or something and give it to them, because I don't think anyone's going to be taking Joe Hart even for like $100,000. I don't think anyone's taking him. I don't think it's worth it for them, unless the only teams I can think maybe might go for Joe Hart are he could go for like the Rob Green role at a big club, that kind of role. Richard Wright, these kind of keepers who are like fourth choice but in the squad just to make up the quotas. Unless he's going to go to one of these teams and do that role, I can't see Joe Hart leaving Tottenham or anyone coming in for him. So I think it's unlikely we offload him. But I'm happy that we're going for a high quality number 2 keeper, and I'm looking for him towards the future. Maybe he could definitely displace Lloris in terms of being our number 1. I think he's done a good job for Atalanta. So maybe Paratici knows Serie A, so maybe he sees something in him.
In terms of Hugo Lloris, I mean, it was widely reported at the end of the last season saying that he's looking to move on, maybe to go to a PSG. Obviously, that's off the cards now with Donnarumma going there and Keylor Navas being there. Do you think that Hugo Lloris could stay beyond the end of his contract next summer?
Yeah, I do think it's possible if he decides that he doesn't want a new challenge, and Tottenham are still potentially going in the right direction, and he does want one more move in his career and he wants to end his career at Tottenham, then yeah, it is possible. But it all depends. Obviously, I do think he actually had a pretty good year last year, to be fair, Lloris. And I think if he has another similarly good year and he decides he wants, he's still captain, remember, and if he decides he wants to end his career at Tottenham, I can definitely see it. But I think it's more likely he'll want a new challenge. So I think this will be his last year at Tottenham. That's my gut feeling. But I don't think things can change quickly in football. Things can change. So I wouldn't put it beyond the possibility for sure that he can stay.
I keep saying it about Hugo Lloris, is that I don't think we're going to know exactly what we've lost in a keeper until he's actually out the door, Hugo Lloris, because even though with the mistakes he makes, he's still a top quality keeper, in my opinion. And I think that it'll be very hard, even with this Gollini or whoever goalkeeper we bring the door, to find someone that's even on a par with Hugo Lloris, never mind better than Hugo Lloris moving forward.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most underrated keepers in the Premier League. I really do. I think the amount of saves he makes, the amount of goals that he prevents that should be goals and things like that, I think it gets overlooked. He does make a few high-profile mistakes, but I think he gets judged on it more than other keepers do. And I think that I really rate Lloris so highly. I think he's one of the best in the league, and I think people are very quick to maybe get rid of him or want him gone whenever he makes a mistake. And I think I completely agree. Once he leaves or once he has gone, from Spurs, we're going to absolutely wish he was still here, I think.
Yeah, and you look at other high-profile keepers around the Premier League, Ederson, Alisson, they're all top keepers in their own right, but they still all make mistakes throughout the season. Tell me a goalkeeper that doesn't make a mistake throughout the season at the end of the day.
Exactly,
And I think
there isn't one.
Exactly. But look, that is the news update from Sky Italia. It looks as though we are looking to bring in Gollini to replace Joe Hart to play understudy to Hugo Lloris for this coming season, but we'll see how this one plays out. The next story we're going to look at is from Charlie Ekushare of The Athletic. And what he's saying is he's talking about Nuno and the tactics he's going to be playing next season. And the quote is, Nuno will move away from a three-man defence he had at Wolves. He is deemed to play more attacking football. Nuno's training sessions have been intense with a clear focus and good communication and flexible tactically, which has impressed the players. Tottenham Hotspur players have enjoyed the training sessions under Nuno, believing them to be way more intense than it was under Jose Mourinho, which was interesting. And it was quite obviously wide reported that the Jose Mourinho training sessions weren't really enough for the Tottenham players, not enough focus on fitness and what have you, like it was under Poch and like it has been under Nuno. So, I mean, it's music to our ears, isn't it? All the news coming out the training camps and the players, how they're reacting to Nuno.
Yeah, that's positive. It's definitely positive. And I'm glad these players are now enjoying a more intense training after they said that Pochettino was too intense. So I'm glad in that sense.
How long till they come out and complain that
exactly,
it's too intense?
Exactly. Give it a year and it's too intense. Get a new manager. We don't want such intensity. I think that's positive in terms of going back to a back three or a back four. I think the days of having a set formation should be a thing of the past, in my opinion, for us, because I think you can see with England at the Euros, I think how many different formations England played. Played three at the back, played four at the back, depending on the opposition, and it worked a treat for us. Go all the way to the final, and I think that's definitely something that Spurs should definitely look at and think, why should teams be married to one formation? You should be comfortable with multiple formations, and that's how you can be flexible totally tactically. And I think that's what Nuno should look to implement. He should look to try and different formations, and I think we should look to be comfortable in different formations, and that's that could be definitely a good way forward, and how we can definitely get the upper hand, or rather play against teams who have a set formation. You know how they're going to play, and although they're going to be very well drilled and know their roles, and if we can be more tactically flexible than the other team, maybe that's where we can get the upper hand this season. So I think it's a good thing he's going to a back four initially, because we know he can coach a back three because he's done it with Wolves. So I think it's positive.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then the article goes on to say that over the next couple of weeks, Nuno will sit down and discuss with those players whose futures are uncertain at the club. Which players do you reckon he's talking about there? I mean, it's obvious, some of them in terms of a Davinson Sanchez and people like that, maybe Harry Winks. But who else do you reckon is on the list over there?
Sissoko, Serge Aurier, Lamela, probably. I think that's it. I reckon he's going to give Winks a chance. I have a feeling.
And it looks as though Dyer as well.
And Dyer as well. I think Winks will be part of the team next season. That's my gut feeling.
These Winks and Dyers, they just get renewed sense of optimism every time a manager comes in. And in terms of Harry Winks, there was that clip doing the rounds on social media of a fan supposedly spitting on Harry Winks as he walked past at the thing, but seems as though it's just a nonsense made out of nothing.
Rubbish, absolute rubbish.
I don't understand why it's done the rounds like this.
Because people like to think they've seen something which is disgusting, and then they like to white knight or whatever. Like, it was clearly a strand of hair blowing in the wind. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So I literally, I've seen the slow-mo. It's very clearly a strand of hair. Apparently Tottenham will even look into it, but
that's it.
It's bunch of nonsense. No one spat at Harry Winks. I think you would have seen a bit more of a reaction from him if someone spat at him as well. He seemed to just move along. So I think people were looking way too into that video than was what actually was there.
Yeah, and like Chris Cowden, he's the one that actually shot the footage, and he came out straight away and was like, "This is all rubbish. No one spat at anyone, and like nothing happened." And it still did
Yeah.
the rounds, and Tottenham are still looking into it. It's
And
absolutely
everyone's
mental.
like, oh my god, someone spat at wings. Oh, it's such a disgrace. That person needs all these terrible things done to them. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
everyone needs to calm down a bit.
Yeah, I completely agree. Gazzetto dello Sport say Tottenham are interested in signing Roma midfielder Lorenzo Pellegrini, but can only do so once the Italian side complete the signature of Arsenal's Granit Xhaka. The midfielder has a 30 million euro release clause in his contract. Is he one that you'd be looking to bring in?
Is this our version of Bale to Madrid and Ozil to Arsenal?
Yeah, basically.
Basically,
yeah.
We're getting one over on the Arsenal finally. No, sorry. I really like Pellegrini. I think he's a class player. I think he's done a great job for Roma. I think he's maybe it's my FM goggles talking, but I've always liked Pellegrini, and especially on FM he's class. So I think clearly if Paratici is desperate for him, and I think as well modest price like 25 million. I think that's a decent price. But the only problem I would have is he's potentially a bit similar to Højbjerg. So in that sense, would I want two similar players? And we got Skip there, and we got Winks. I don't know. Is he the kind of midfielder we desperately need? Look, I'm happy to bring him in because I think he's a high class player. But he wasn't in. I don't think he was in the Italy squad, was he, for the Euros? So, I mean, I think he's a class player, but I don't think he's a massive priority right now.
In terms of pricing around the transfer market this summer, is it just me, or the prices seem quite a bit lower than they have been the previous years?
Definitely. Because of the pandemic, people can't set that unrealistic price tags anymore as much. I think there is still a bit of a price hike for Premier League clubs, but even then, I think they understand that they kind of need to sell. I think Italian clubs and Spanish clubs, they've been hit so much harder than Premier League clubs from the pandemic. So they're actually not in a position like Premier League clubs where they're more open to selling. It's more like they kind of need to sell. Otherwise, they're in deep trouble. So I think that's why prices are kind of lower. They're kind of more accepting of... I think Pellegrini, first of all, is a release clause. So I don't think it's Roma setting the price. But I think in general... Spanish and Italian clubs are setting much fairer prices because they're much more in desperate need of bringing the cash.
Next up is a publication called Sport from Spain, and they say Catalan giants Barcelona are ready to ditch Clement Lenglet, with Spurs and Arsenal the two front runners for his signature, and they go on to say that it is quite likely that he will move to one of the two clubs. Obviously, he hasn't really done that well at Barcelona as opposed to some of their other big centre-backs that they've had over the years. Is he one that you would welcome through the doors, or do we need to be setting our sights a bit higher?
I don't think he's done badly. I actually think Lenglet is quite a good defender, to be fair. I think he went through a period as well. I can't remember if it was last year or season 4 last, where he was their number one centre-back and he was forming a really strong partnership with PK, and he's a good left-sided centre-back. I think he would be a good signing, to be fair.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think he's a good player. I really am a fan of Lenglet. So if we got the opportunity, I don't think there are that many. I don't think it's about Tottenham setting their sights low, getting Lenglet, and I think it's a class defender. I really do. I think
when you're talking about players that we've been linked with in terms of Maxence Lacroix or Milan Skriniar or these kind of players, I mean, he's a level below, isn't he?
I think you could potentially say that. I don't think it's necessarily that clear cut. But he's definitely a level below. I think he's a regular. I know he didn't play that much in the Euros, although he got a few minutes. But I think he's been a regular for France in the past. I think if he gets a starting berth, I think he could suit us well. I don't think he's a complete level below people like Skriniar and that. I think maybe you could argue he's worse. I would think Skriniar's better. But I don't think it's like, oh, this guy's definitely a level below. I wouldn't say it's that clear cut. No, I wouldn't.
Interesting. I mean, I wasn't trying to say that he's a bad player. I was just saying the defenders that they've had over the years in terms of Gerard Piqués and those kind of defenders, he hasn't hit the heights that they have at Barcelona. That's what I was trying to say.
I don't think if they're in financial trouble, they'll be looking to sell him, but they are, and that's the reality. I think he's a fine, competent, he's a good defender, more than competent. I think he's a good, high-class defender. And
would he come in and be our number one centre back, our best centre back at the club straight away?
I reckon so, yeah.
Interesting. Well, you guys let me know in the comment section below. Would you be looking to bring in Clement Lenglet into Spurs? It looks like he will be going out the exit door at Barcelona this summer. So the reports are saying that Spurs and Arsenal are both keen to sign him. So we'll have to see how this one...
By the way, has that happened so far that Tottenham and Arsenal are both in for them? I swear.
We're all in for the same level of player.
Yeah,
and like,
every bloody rumour I'm seeing is Tottenham and Arsenal both in the running. I'm like, bloody hell. But we got the Conference League. Big football in front of you.
Exactly. He's dangling it in front of us, people. Next up is comments from the Bologna director, Riccardo Bigon, talking of Tottenham's interest in Takehiro Tomiyasu. And he says, at least 4 clubs looking at him. We do not need to undersell. So if there's a suitable closure for everyone, fine. Otherwise, no, we will look for other meeting points. It looks as though the wind and the sea are starting to hit the rocks on this deal a bit.
No, these kind of statements always happen at this point of the deal because they always want the extra few million. It always happens. How many times have you seen you think a deal was done and then the chairman makes a statement like this in the press or something like that? He says something like this. Happens
so with Leon a lot. That Orlas loves doing that, doesn't he?
So often. I've seen this a million times. I just think this is their way of trying to get a few more, trying to get their price they've been asking for. Levy's clearly being stubborn, and now he's saying, "Oh, we've got 4 clubs, we've got these clubs, blah blah." We don't need. He's clearly telling Levy, "Look, cough up the extra few million, and he's yours, and that's it." I think that's how it is at the moment. We know how stubborn Levy is, and maybe there's a middle ground, but I think that's what I take from that chairman statement.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you're probably right, but it's just frustrating that we just can't do a normal deal like any other club, It's like 4 weeks, 5 weeks to the start of the season. Not one player is out the door yet. Not one player is through the door yet. And it's probably going to be this way when we go into the start of the season. I mean, we're probably going to look to do our deals right at the end of the transfer window, just as per usual. And it's just so frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw an article titled Spurs are going to move quicker now, Paratici's at the helm. I'm like, are we? We're not far long from the start of the season. We're really not. We haven't signed or got rid of anyone, so don't really see us moving very quickly.
Paratici has been officially in the job now for 19 days. This is his 19th day officially in the job. And it just seems as though all it's done is cause a media circus. I can't see any proper action happening. It's just so frustrating, man.
Well, apparently he likes to negotiate for multiple players, and maybe that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Well, look, let's move on. L'Equipe say Tottenham have cooled down their interest and talks for Marcus Thuram. Gladbach reportedly want 25 million euros for the player. Again, quite a good price for a player that was in the French squad, that's had a good couple of seasons now in the German league. I would be buying off their hand for a player like that at that price.
Yeah, considering as well, we're definitely not getting Bale back, and that's what Nuno said. So that seems to be a closed door now. So I think it's good that it's a closed door early on, so we know where we stand, and we're not thinking, later in the window, will he, won't he? I think it's good to get that closed off early, so we know, look, he's not coming back, and we can think about other targets. And when you think about Marcus Thuram, I think it's a more than fair price considering his age, his quality, how what he provides in terms of end product. I think that's more than fair price. So I think they'll be asking for more than that. I don't think it's 25 million, but I don't think Tottenham would have called their interest, especially 25 million euros. That's like 17 million pounds or something. That's a steal. That's a steal in this market. So in any market, I think that's a steal for Marcus Thuram. So I don't think that is the price. Otherwise, it would be idiotic to cooling our interest. But I think it was always going to happen that Tottenham were going to cool their interest because they just don't want us to have nice things. So
Ekrem Konar is saying Tottenham have rejected offers this summer for both Ryan Sessegnon and Ollie Skip. Nuno Espirito Santo really wants both players to be a firm fixture in the squad this season, which is music to our ears, to be honest, especially with Ollie Skip.
Definitely. He didn't play, did he? He's still injured, is he? He didn't play against Leyton Orient, did he?
He's back in full training, but he wasn't ready to start the game. I imagine he might play on Wednesday night.
That'll be good to see him back in action. But I'm glad about that, because I think Sessegnon and Skip definitely can definitely develop under Nuno, and I think they could definitely be valuable members of the team. And I think obviously we haven't seen anything of Sessegnon in a Spurs shirt just yet. Skip has his best work's been in the Norwich shirt, but I'm excited about the prospect of both of them progressing and being part of the first team, and especially Sessegnon could definitely fit in a Nuno system. I'm sure about that. Especially if we do play back three or even in a back four. I think he'll have to find his home. I think he'll have to find his position, because I don't think he's sure himself where he wants to play. But I'm sure Nuno can help him figure that out. And the only thing is with Skip is if we are going to sign another centre mid and Winks is going to stay, I'm worried. I'm hoping he can play his way into the team. I'm just worried that he won't be afforded as many opportunities as we had hoped, maybe at the back end of last season.
Well, there is always the cup games, obviously Carabao Cup, early rounds of the FA Cup, the Conference League as well. So, I mean, we've got a lot of games this season, so they definitely will see minutes, that's for sure. And in terms of this about Ollie Skip, with Nuno very keen to keep him in the squad and stuff, that probably pours even more cold water on the Lorenzo Pellegrini rumour, doesn't it?
It does. It does, because he's a fairly similar, he's a centre mid, kind of box-to-box kind of... not really box to box. He's not the most attacking. He is a more defensive player, but he's got like a decent passing range. He's got decent technical ability. So, like, I think he is similar kind of player to Skip and Højbjerg and Winks and that kind of player. So, I do find it hard to, like, if we are going to sign Pellegrini, I would think Skip's minutes are going to be very limited.
The last bit of transfer news we've got today is from Alexis Bernard from Le Ten Sport in France. And what he's saying is that Tottenham have a real interest in Hossam Aouar of Lyon, but yet to make an offer yet. It's also rumoured that he's also on the market for about 25 million euros. I mean, we saw rumours a few days ago that we're looking to offload Tanguy and Ndombele in terms of a swap deal, but that was completely rubbished. So it looks as though we do hold an interest in Aouar, but if we make a bid remains to be seen, to be honest. But I would love him through the door. What a player.
Yeah, I think he's a class player. Had a difficult season, to be fair, for Lyon. Didn't have the best season last season, but I think a lot of that was to do with his failed transfer probably last season to either Arsenal or I think also was it Atletico was he linked with, and he didn't quite get it through the door. I think he's a class player. I think his price seemed to have halved over the after 1 year, which is very interesting.
Yeah, Arsenal were looking to bring him in for 50-60 million last summer.
Yeah, and obviously that didn't happen, and now his price is about halved, and apparently Arsenal aren't interested now. So I think it definitely gives us a free run at him. I'll definitely be very, very happy about getting someone like him. And I think he definitely needs a bit of a new challenge, and he needs a new environment to get the best out of him, because I think maybe it's gone a bit stale for him at Lyon. That's why he didn't have the best of seasons. But I'd be very excited about the prospect of getting Aouar in. I really would, because if we can get the best out of him, he can play across the forward line. He could be that creative player who can help unlock defences that we've been missing since Eriksen's gone. So I really think Aouar could bring a lot to this team.
Completely agree. Last but not least, this is from Football Italia, talking about Gennaro Gattuso, and he insists his failed appointment as Tottenham boss he says he insists his failed appointment at Tottenham boss as he could not defend himself against accusations on social media. And the quotes was, "It was a huge disappointment, but I wasn't described for any of the way I am, and there was nothing I could do. I am sorry I could not defend myself. Certain malice comes from Facebook or Twitter, where it's possible to give any sort of falsehood." Are you buying that from Gennaro Gattuso?
I mean, I understand what he's saying. From his point of view, that's like, they've taken all these quotes and they've decimated his character, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, he said those things. They're not fake quotes, and and people have the right to look. People want to judge him on that and make their own opinions as their right. And I think if he really wanted to defend himself, he could have. He could have said something publicly, or maybe I don't know, maybe Tottenham told him not to or whatever. But he definitely, in this day and age, everyone has a camera on their phone. He could upload to social media anytime he wants, and he can defend himself. And then people can take it any way they want. So for him to say he can't defend himself, I think is not true. I just don't think. I think his agent or his PR probably told him not to, because maybe it'll be detrimental or whatever for future things, or whatever it is.
Sometimes these things can be more trouble than it's actually worth.
Yeah. I think from my point of view, I didn't want him as manager purely on a footballing basis. Nothing to do with, obviously partly to do with that, but mostly to do with because I didn't think he would be a good football manager for Tottenham Hotspur. I think he's too much of a hothead. I don't think he has the right characteristics. So I think he needs to go over it. I think he's still talking about it. This isn't the first time he's brought it up.
I know.
It's been like
he really wanted the job. It seems he really wanted it.
Really did, but look, I don't think it was ever going to be the right fit, and I think he needs to move on, man. He needs to move. He's still bitter about it.
I completely agree, and I think we're all more than happy with Nuno at the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But look, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts regarding any of the news we brought to you today. Good to have you back, Sim. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.